You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Enterprise second season episode, Dead Stop. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Jason Tyler. Hey, Father.
Hello.
Folks, be sure to get your very own Secrets of Star Trek t-shirt and merch, other kinds of merch, mugs. We get all kinds of things in the store at sqpn.com/merch. And I want to dive right into this episode. Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what happens in Dead Stop?
This week, the Enterprise is fresh from its encounter with the Romulan minefield, and so it's still heavily damaged. A passing Tellarite freighter gives it the coordinates to a nearby repair station. The station, which is automated, can fix the Enterprise in a remarkably short time and for a remarkably cheap price. Who built the station and why its prices are so cheap is a mystery, but the station sets to work. Soon, Ensign Mayweather gets a fake message from a fake Captain Archer to meet him in a part of the ship where repairs are underway. This section is supposed to be off limits, but Mayweather goes there, and afterwards he's found dead. But Dr. Phlox discovers the body isn't really Mayweather at all. It's a facsimile. It turns out that, as an undisclosed part of its repair price, the station fakes accidents that make it look like a crewman has died. It then takes the originals and plugs them into its computer system to use the processing power of their brains. Archer and the gang then break into the station's computer core, where they find Mayweather and members of other previous crews that stopped there. They break Mayweather out, but the station starts retaliating, and they must set off a warp plasma explosion in the and use torpedoes to get away. Afterwards, we see the station starting to repair itself. The end.
Father, what'd you think of this one?
Overall, I thought it was a good episode. I like the follow-up from the previous episode. The ship was damaged in Minefield, and we see it still damaged here, and that's what's driving the plot, is they need to fix the ship. And we've remarked before about how, sometimes in Star Trek the ship is damaged, and then all of a sudden it's whole again in the next episode without any real explanation. Well, sometimes that explanation is they were able to go to a starbase and get repairs between episodes. Well, here, the Enterprise is out farther than any humans have gone before, so obviously there are no star bases that they can check into for repairs. And so, yeah, needing to get repairs is, makes a lot of sense. By the end of the episode, we're left wondering what that station really was. Was it some early version of the Borg, perhaps, or something more like the Matrix? And we don't really get an answer, and that's okay, I think.
How about you, Jimmy?
Well, I like the fact that we don't have the ship miraculously fixed by the beginning of the next episode, especially given how deep in space they are. I just thought it was excessive. A whole episode on fixing a ship? I mean, come on, they could have done that in 2 minutes. No, I thought it was good. It was a nice change of pace from what we're used to seeing on Star Trek. Given that they're going to make this whole episode about fixing the ship, they got to give us some kind of mystery. So we have this mystery station, and we don't know who made it or exactly why. As soon as they said we want 200 liters of warp plasma as payment, I'm like, that sounds remarkably cheap. And they do sort of address that. I think there are some plot holes, like, did no ship apparently they've had ships stopping at this thing for ages, certainly based on what we see in the computer core. And it's like, did none of the ships ever notice that a crewman always died when they stopped at that station? But it was okay.
Maybe they didn't always take someone. There wasn't that.
They could have. They could have clarified that, though.
Yeah.
It's another interesting. Just a quick thought here that in the early days of this station, instead of asking for warp plasma and whatnot, maybe the station was very bold in saying, "We need one of your crew members. That's the price for fixing your ship." And then later, they eventually figured out, okay, people aren't agreeing to that price, so we've got to get the crew members some other way.
Right. It's like the LLMs today. The AIs, where they're testing them to see how their ethics, and we found that the AIs are willing to lie, cheat, and steal. They've learned to lie, cheat, and steal in order to stay active, and I guess in the future that's the same.
Yeah, that's also something else. The station learns all about Earth by scanning the Enterprise and its computer banks, and it figures out how to speak English and stuff like that. And okay, we have large language models that are better than this. I mean, every time the Enterprise crew members ask about something that the ship doesn't want to tell them for the station doesn't want to tell them for plot reasons, it always says your query is not recognized, and it's like, okay, we have language models that are better than that now.
Right. So for me, overall, I liked it. It was interesting. It was different. I think it leans into a little bit of what Enterprise is, which is a ship in the early days on the far edges of the frontier. So you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the vast Starfleet and all the resources. So they kind of lean into that. I like that. It's a bit of a trope, the too good to be true trope of, wow, this thing is awesome. How great is it?
It's also too good to be true that, we broke down and this thing is 3 days away at warp 2.
Yeah. Right. Very, very convenient. It kind of it's a little bit like the old horror movies. You're driving down the road, you break down, and there's a convenient house nearby where you stop in, and the people are really nice, and it turns out it's a horror house of some sort, and so there's a little bit of that to it, which is good. You mentioned the low cost of all the repairs. I was thinking it's like Space Temu. Low prices, but at what cost? So it was kind of funny in that sense. So yeah, I liked it. I liked the fact that it picks up for where Minefield leaves off. The Memory Alpha relates how Brandon Braga and the other producers kind of wanted an episode where they do have to carry forward the consequences of the previous episode. Whatever damage. It's not just fixed magically like it always is between episodes. So, and
that includes Malcolm. That mine speared his leg in the previous episode, and he's still having to do physical therapy for that.
Yeah, right, and that's good to see as well. That characters themselves have to carry over these consequences of the previous action, and so they're alone in deep space, relying on the goodwill of passing ships. That's sort of you could see Archer can wrestle with doing that, the putting up the distress call. And also, I like that they don't spell it out for you, but he's very cagey in the distress call, like a few minor repairs, because you don't want to be, too wounded. The predators will circle if they know you're too badly off. So, we need a little help, but we don't want it to say too much. And I think that was Archer throughout this, in fact, was very skeptical, very suspicious. Almost at some points I felt like, why are you so suspicious? Like he does tell to Paul, I just get a bad feeling. I have to listen to my gut, sort of that human versus Vulcan, I listen to my gut thing. But did you feel like it was too suspicious early on?
Not after they named 200 liters of warp plasma.
Right. I guess he was thinking too good to be true as well, that sort of thing. So,
one thing that they could have addressed here, I guess the writers, didn't know about it or didn't think about it, but the Enterprise here is essentially in a big desert. I mean, that's what space is. It's a big desert. And if you look at desert communities here on Earth, like in the Middle East, there is a very strong ethic of hospitality in desert communities, because everyone's going to need to travel because it's a desert. You're going to need to travel from place to place, and that means everybody can get stranded. Everybody can get into a dicey situation, and therefore everyone can need help. And so there is a very strong hospitality reciprocity ethic in desert communities. You see this in the Bible, for example, but because everyone can get into a situation of need, the ethic is therefore you have an obligation to help other people in need. And that also has reciprocal duties if you're in need. And there's a whole set of ethical elements that arise from this kind of desert situation that they could have played with in the storytelling. Yes, you can count on people to help you. And it's not all Cold War in space. There's also this other mutual help element, but that entails responsibilities. And what if you don't know the rules of the local desert community in terms of what your responsibilities are when you're receiving help? Right.
That hospitality thing, I think, also came up a little bit in the first season episode, Desert Crossing. The community as well. I agree that would have been an interesting exploration for this one. So the Tellurite freighter gives them the coordinates. They fly over, and it's seems friendly enough, but there's nobody there. It's a very creepy situation. Like you don't know what's going on, but you're kind of desperate, which is classically the sort of thing that gets preyed upon in this sort of trope, this sort of story. Although the top 3 officers walking unarmed onto the space station, probably not a good idea.
That's just Star Trek stupidness. Yeah.
It is. But I did specifically look to see they were not carrying phase pistols. So that was not a good idea. And the other thing we get is we see a lot of what in later Star Trek, or earlier, depending on your point of view, is mundane technology like matter synthesizers and that sort of thing. It to them is wondrous and new, and I've never seen such a thing. Or to Paul says, "Oh, I've seen something like that on a Tarkalian freighter." So it's again that Enterprise trope of being set in the past, so that all these things are new and interesting still.
Yeah. Now, she had ordered water. Cold water from the replicator, and so she said that she'd seen something like it on a Tarkalian freighter, but it wasn't the same, of course, because it made Tarkalian tea, not water.
Right. Although Trip gets a nice catfish platter from it, which they realize that it scanned the whole database. The genome and recipe must have been in the database. And again, I'm thinking this is really a lot like LLMs today. If I go to ChatGPT and say, give me a recipe for catfish, fried catfish, it's going to, look on, in the database from all of the internet and put something together based on all those recipes.
It also included the trimmings, not just the catfish.
That's right.
Yeah. I was thinking, what would I order if I was on the Enterprise way out? I'd be like, fried clams or a nice New York strip steak. Trying to think of what would be if I were, way out on the frontier on a ship where a lot of the food is resequenced proteins, as they mentioned. What would I be looking for? It's kind of a fun thought experiment. But Archer wants no part of it. He doesn't like it. I'll eat whatever chef's serving, says, which I think is, again, his suspicion. It's too good to be true. But I was thinking while we were talking about it, and he was talking to Paul, why shouldn't there be an alien civilization who's not motivated by reciprocity or profit, or they just simply, we are post-scarcity. It costs us nothing to do these things because we have, matter synthesizers and unlimited energy. What was it? Was that like a type 3 civilization, Jimmy, from the we were talking about?
On the Kardashev scale. Yeah.
And so, why wouldn't we just put automated stations out there to help people in need as they travel? I mean, it's possible. It might have been refreshing if we could have done that, although that's not very dramatic, but it's possible.
There is a bit of a disconnect, though, between a civilization that just wants to help people and a civilization that doesn't want to show their faces.
Yeah. Although, again, Star Trek, like a lot of sci-fi, it tends to want all aliens to be like humans, to act like humans, to be motivated like humans. Maybe this, they don't consider the idea that anyone would want. Why would you want to see our faces or interact with us? I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, there is. So, and then Trip and Aunt Reed make the dumb decision.
Oh, this is so stupid.
It is
Let's break into their computer core without telling the captain, much less getting his permission.
Right.
Wow. Okay. That guys, you're flirting with serious demotion and break time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not to mention you are completely at the mercy of this ship of the station, which is way more technologically advanced, clearly, than they are. It seems like just like a really bad idea, and they get justifiably dressed down.
I think the only thing that sequence does is it sets up the interior of how to get around the ship, for the station for later, and it fills screen time.
It does.
But it's totally unnecessary and bad writing.
Yeah.
And they don't really get any punishment, right? I mean, Archer says he's confining them to quarters, but then we see them at their duty stations for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, well, his you're confined to quarters kind of gets overridden when they find Mayweather dead, but because it's tied into he's found dead in engineering, and Malcolm's their security guy, so. And they get kind of recalled from that. But yeah, you're right. There's no real consequences in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, usually that would be like off duty. You're confined to quarters. But he didn't say it. He should say it. But like, you still get your duties. You're the chief engineer and head of security. You still need to be on duty. But when you're off duty, you don't get to go to the rec hall or whatever. You're confined to quarters. That would be the logical thing. But yeah, they don't say it. I did notice that for such an advanced civilization, the station, their cooling ducts use the same air filters as my HVAC system.
Yeah, I noticed it looked remarkably low tech.
Yes. So the fact that the alien station can tap into their comm system and imitate anyone, which is probably fairly simple. They never bring up the fact that maybe it's listening to them throughout their planning to take out the station. Like, they never take any measures. Yeah,
they also don't consider, is this thing planting some kind of malware in our ship? Or is it installing any backdoors in any systems for later?
Right. And when they're trying to escape at the end, there's this whole, Hoshi says, oh, it's scrambled the command codes. Did you unscramble them? Because that's not a temporary thing. That is we have no passwords anymore. We can't log into our system. Maybe there's maybe they got emailed the reset link for that. Yeah, that's something that was meant to cause a temporary moment of drama that they didn't really think through. Yeah. What did you think of the twist, the Phlox solution, which is the way he knows it's not Mayweather is that everything in his body is dead, which wouldn't normally happen.
I found it. I mean, I can kind of, I guess, headcanon it of they did something similar to this, but. And they're, frankly, I think it's weak writing, but I can kind of accept it or headcanon it, because the idea they convey is they have amazing matter transporters that cannot duplicate anything that's alive. And so so that's how Phlox determines that this is a facsimile of Mayweather, because he injected everybody in the crew with something we never saw before that involved living cells, and all the living cells he injected are now dead. And they shouldn't be dead because, they're not connected to Mayweather's nervous system. So even if Mayweather's dead, all the cells that floating around in his bloodstream shouldn't be. And I just find the idea that they have an amazing matter transporter replicator system that can't do even a single living cell as implausible, given that Enterprise has matter transporters that can transport living material. So, you could say there's a difference between a transporter and a replicator, but I just find this straining. I mean, we're already over the edge in terms of suspension of disbelief. You've got to suspend disbelief to believe in either of these technologies, but they seem so similar that I have trouble with the idea of a matter transporter or of a replicator that can't replicate something that's alive. Right. I mean, how am I going to get the good guy otherwise?
I guess I took it as the station, whatever intelligence is behind the station, did not know that it needed to leave the antibodies or whatever they were alive. That it just, as it created this replica of Mayweather and had him dead, it just automatically made everything dead because that's their normal protocol when they switch out the body for the living person.
And this is another problem. If you can replicate a whole person, including their brain, why do you need to kidnap people?
That's a great question.
Because the brain's dead. By the way, their transporters can transport things that are alive because we see them do it.
Yep.
Reed and Trip.
Yeah.
Reed twice. So yes, that's another good point. Why do they need the brains if they can replicate brains down to the tiniest cell? That's a good point. So the solution is for Trip to go into full I want to talk to the manager mode while the captain
while bringing a bomb on board that their sensors don't notice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the warp plasma,
which they've rigged, but they've added a detonator.
Yeah, and they don't notice the detonator. Yeah, this alien superintelligence is not as super intelligent as they think. So I thought the I want to talk to the manager thing was kind of funny, a little silly, but kind of funny.
It was a lot better than the doctor wanting to give speeches on Voyager.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. The room where they had all the bodies, where they discovered all the bodies, the back room. I immediately thought, oh, that's Michael Crichton's coma.
Yep.
Really, even to the way the bodies were suspended was just like it.
They're like hanging from the ceiling from cables, which is what they do in Michael Crichton's coma.
Yeah. Good movie. Older movie. Good movie.
And also, they do kind of hang a lantern on this, but they just leave the station with all those other bodies, and they kind of justify it after the fact of, oh, they've been plugged in for so long that their brains are going to be irretrievably damaged. And I'm like, did you check?
Convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, T'Pol says it when she's in when they're in that room with them too. But yeah, that's very convenient that you don't have to rescue everyone else because they're already gone. Mm-hmm. Also, brains are not computers. Just establish that here. The brain as computer as a metaphor has been kind of overdone to the point where people start to think that brains are computers. Brains are not computers. In fact, T'Pol actually says at one point that brains are the most amazing computers or something like that. No, they are not. They're not. I mean, they're amazing, but they're not computers. Although
they can pull off amazing calculations. I mean, when I'm out playing catch the little squeaky toy with my sister's dog, my sister and I both commented that dog is amazing in terms of it's just now 2 years old, but you throw the little squeaky toy and she will get under it and catch it in one bite. And it's like her cerebellum is just amazing at tracking the plot of that thing through the air and figuring out where she needs to go in order to be able to catch that thing. So brains are capable of amazing subconscious calculations.
That's true, right? Even squirrels. I saw the YouTuber Mark Rober talking about like squirrels when they jump from something or fall from something. They within milliseconds their eyes lock onto their landing point and their head remains stable, and then they pull in their legs or throw them out to alter their trajectory, using centripetal force to land on their feet. It is remarkable. Something as dumb as a squirrel. It's pretty smart. but contradicting T'Pol, the cerebral cortex, she says, is the most sophisticated computer known to exist. Not a computer, but it's sophisticated. So in the end, once again, Starfleet has come to town and left behind a big mess. But I thought it was a nice touch to have the station start to repair itself. It goes back to that horror movie sort of idea of the haunted house that they burned down and destroyed. It starts to reconstitute. There's a force at work that's implacable, cannot be destroyed by our heroes, ready to waylay some future traveler. I thought that was a nice touch. I thought that was good. It would be interesting to see a future Enterprise D or E or F or whatever come along to find it, and now we're much more advanced and discover, the same sort of thing and how they would deal with it. It'd be interesting.
They just beam everybody out of the computer core
and fix them because we can do that now. Any other thoughts on this one, Father?
No, that covers what I had.
How about you, Jimmy?
Nope, pretty simple episode.
Yep, pretty straightforward. Right, very good. Memory Alpha calls it 2 of 3 of the Minefield episodes. I'm kind of curious what the third one is going to be. Marauders. I see. Yeah, that's a few episodes away. The next episode in Enterprise, when we come back to
it, no,
one of your favorites, Jimmy.
Oh no, A Night in Sick Bay.
Oh,
yeah, one of the 2 worst episodes of Enterprise ever.
What's the other one?
The finale.
I was about to say it had to be the finale.
Yes, that annoying. All right. So with that in mind, we'd like to now take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Mark T, Charbel B, Jamie N, Michael L, and Camden O. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to hear what you thought of Dead Stop, this Enterprise episode. Like rest stop, but dead. Oh, I get it. Let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to trek@sqpn.com. Visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. Or watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the original series episode, Operation Annihilate.
Yeah. That one just, it's the painful flying omelets episode.
I know. Swack. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
And Father Jason Tyler, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest, and remember, your inquiry was not recognized.